No worries.
Hello, hello, blissful parents. Racheal Abraham here. I hope you guys are doing great today because I have a wonderful interview for you. Let me introduce you, my friend Racheal O'Meara. Racheal, hey, how are you doing?
Hello. Hi, Michelle. It's good to be here today with you.
So great to be here with you too. And guys, we are talking about the power of pausing. Does that not sound good to you? It sounds good to me. I'd love to pause lots of times over the last few hours. It's been a busy day. So Racheal is going to take us back and tell us how it's so important to take pauses, the daily pause and pauses throughout the day with our kids. So we can just access those resources we need the most, right, Racheal?
Right on. Yes, 100%. And I'm excited to share all these exciting details with you.
Awesome. Well, let me tell you guys a little bit more about Racheal. She's a transformational leadership coach and executive coach, and she helps others fill their potential. She's also spent many years as an executive at Google, the Google, that's right. And Racheal also writes for many publications like the Huffington Post and leads workshops and speaks all around on the practice of pausing. So she's a certified transformational coach, and we are so excited to have her here with us today. Thank you, Racheal, for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. And I was just thinking, I know in my bio, I didn't even mention this, but I also have a book called Pause, which is really relevant towards learning how to equip ourselves to harness the life-changing power of giving yourself a break. And so that's been out for a couple of years. And I just posted another I posted another book actually called Pause the Journal. I should say I wrote it. Pause the Journal is like a compliment, and it's great for how to intentionally live your dreams too. So if you're thinking about wanting to pause more, or just like, hey, I wish I could slow down just a little bit so I could enjoy this quality time with my kids and my dog or my cat or whomever, this is a great place to start. And that's called Pause the Journal.
I love that. How did you come across the in the world of pausing? Like, how did that become a big part of what you do?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't actually intentional, the irony, because a pause to me is an intentional shift in behavior. What happened was I burned out of my job at Google, and I was there for 13 years, but about 10 years ago, I really just learned and discovered that no matter how hard I was trying, I wasn't feeling like I was doing well. And in fact, I was getting feedback from my manager at the time who had great intentions for me, I'm sure, that I just wasn't meeting expectations. I wasn't having executive presence, and I wasn't communicating effectively, and I wasn't completing these jobs and responsibilities for this new team I was leading in client services. And so I felt like I was like hitting my head against the wall sometimes at night, being like, why is this not working? And I felt like a failure, and I felt like a drained, exhausted, depleted person, like many of us probably can feel in parenting, right? And so one day my manager sat me down and just said, Racheal, I don't think this job is a fit for you. You might want to consider doing something else. And to me, like that was my wake up call, right? So like, it's so interesting because we all have wake up calls in different ways. And maybe yours isn't sitting down with a boss, but maybe it's something similar where you're just like, you have a heart to heart with yourself or a partner, and you're like, you know what, I can't keep going this way. And so what ended up happening is I took a 3-month unpaid break from Google. I got permission, and I ended up doing that, which was a very fortunate event. Not only 14% of companies offer any kind of paid leave, by the way, let alone paid or unpaid. Yeah, both paid and unpaid. So I took that time to actually not fill up my schedule. And I don't have kids, so I wasn't looking after anyone. It was just this incredible 3 months of time where I could really take a look at my life and know, okay, what's not working here? Because clearly something's off. It's not for lack of trying or effort. And I think that's like a lot of us, right? We all want to succeed as parents. We all want to be doing well and just like be there for our kids and ourselves. And I felt like that was my skill set I was learning at the time, like being there for myself and like learning what that looked like, because I had no idea. I wasn't really present. And that's what I think really was my message. So I went back to Google. That was what I think is so exciting, is pausing to me was like this, I took myself out of the game, so to speak, for 3 months, but I also know if I had learned the skills that I now coach and write about, then I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have needed a long-term break. I don't think I would have needed a 3-month pause. I probably could have course corrected months in advance. to keep going. And I think that that's what's so important, is that these skills are all learnable. Pausing, intentional shifts in behavior, as I like to define it, Michelle, are learnable skills based in emotional intelligence. And we can learn them, our kids can learn them. And to me, that's what pausing is. It's in service to our doing. And if we aren't really doing pausing, so to speak, if we're not practicing that power of pause, then sometimes it's really, really challenging to keep going, because it's just not sustainable to be on 24/7, especially with a pandemic, especially with remote learning, especially with, just Zoom 24/7. Sometimes a lot of us still aren't back in the offices and things like that, or like with people, our schools and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a very timely episode, because I think there is, whether it's Zoom fatigue or parenting fatigue or whatever it is, overwhelm, there seems to be a lot of that going on this year, from, repercussions of the last few years of a lot going on. So how do we begin for our parents that are feeling like, oh my gosh, I do need one? That sounds wonderful, that 3-month break. How can we kind of integrate that into our lives now?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question.
That opportunity, right? There's no 3-month break.
And here's the key. So you don't need 3 months. This is the whole key, I think, in my mission, I feel like, on this planet, is to help spread the power of being in service to your doing. And trust me, like, this is hard. It's not easy for me. And probably like many of you, you're overachievers. Like, you've done great things in your life. You've maybe climbed the corporate ladder, or you've done something that's really admirable and successful in many people's eyes, including yours. And so it's like, well, why can't I just keep doing that stuff? and you can, by all means, but if we can allow ourselves to be, and all I mean by that is to maybe notice how you feel every day, right? Like, check in, know what's going on, to be self-aware. To me, that can just take a bit, like, for example, there's many daily pauses I like to be an advocate for. Daily pauses are things that you can do every day that are maybe like they take no time, they're free, and they're any activity that works for you. So a lot of times we kind of cut ourselves off and say, I don't have time for that, right? Like, I'm going to look like a slacker. That's my favorite one. My favorite one is, yeah, I don't have time for that. And like, I do it tomorrow. Like, I'll just put it off. Right. So can you relate to that? I don't know. What's your favorite excuse, Michelle?
Totally. I don't have time to stop.
I don't have time to stop right now. And like, I guarantee, I don't know. I know if you're listening and that's you, just like raise your hand in the air right now, because I know that that's most of us. That's just, I think, how our society is wired, and we're all about productivity. And I know that I am. And so it feels counterintuitive. It's like, why would I want to do this, pause or stop? And that's just not going to work. And so the idea is, it's about finding what works for you. So for one of us, for one person, it might be literally going outside in the afternoon and taking the trash cans back in, like I did today. Right. And I was like, I'm so excited to take the trash cans back in. I don't know why I like to take the trash cans in, or out. I just do. It's maybe like a little nature walk for me. And I'm also doing something helpful. So that is a pause, in my opinion. It doesn't need to mean you sit down and meditate. Maybe it's journaling, and like, that's why I put pause the journal out. I have a copy right here. And the idea is to just allow your thoughts to be put on paper, to process, how is it going right now? So the idea is to find the outlet that works for you. I have the belly breath pause is a very powerful one. If you want to try this one with me,
let's do
like
it.
This one is great. And we can teach our kids this, by the way. I have several coach friends who work with parents, and you can teach a child, like, it's so fun to have them lie down on their belly if they're over a couple of years old, and you put a little stuffy animal on them, and then you have them watch the belly. And we could do that. We can put a hand on our belly. So like, if you want to put your hand on the belly right now, and if you're listening, you can do this with us. Uncross your legs, uncross your arms, and just allow yourself to connect with your body. So when you're actually putting a hand on your heart or your belly, you're just slowing down. Like, I already feel my nervous system relaxing a little bit. I don't know. Do you feel that? Like, we haven't even started.
I do, for sure.
So there's like this connection piece. And then if you want to close your eyes, you can go for it. If not, just leave them open, maybe with a gaze slightly open, facing downwards, and breathe in through your nose, holding that breath at the top if you can, and just slowly exhale like you're blowing through a straw. Not trying to do anything other than just take a breath, and then open your eyes, take your hand away. Does that feel different at all?
Sure does. Amazing how
I think I'm even talking slower.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just one breath kind of cleared out a lot of things. This is
Right.
the
And so
end
the
of my
key
work
was,
day. So it's like, that was really
right. And
well
so
needed.
exactly. And so how often do we do that, right? Like it's never, because we're on autopilot, and that's great. We need autopilot to do a lot of things. But if we really want to change how we are feeling and get out of overwhelm, or feel like we need better quality time, then we can do intentional things. And that's all pausing is intention. So it might mean a belly breath for one person, or maybe one with your kids, do it together. One might be naming a feeling, like you could say, how am I feeling right now? And when we do that, we have to drop in our bodies to actually know how we feel, right? We can't really like think our way through the feelings. And so you might say, like, I feel calm, actually, or I feel anger or frustrated. I work with 5 primary emotions: fear, hurt, joy, sadness, and anger. Just naming one of those 5 can be a really powerful experience. And that's from my trainers in the Wright Foundation in Chicago, who, that when I learned that was a game changer. Just I didn't have any idea how I felt. So all these are ways you can pause. They don't take time, and that's how we all start. Is just start with the little things. And kids can learn the feelings. Like there's so many cool tools now. They don't need to take a lot of time. It doesn't need to be a sit down meditation. I think people just kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. And they're like, you know what? I don't have time. I'm not going to try anything. But guess what? There's like a bazillion tools out there. You only need to find 1 or 2 that work. So for you, it might be a belly breath pause. For someone else, it might be a body scan or a walk to take their trash cans in. But the key is you're conscious and you're aware. So you're maybe noticing the colors of the trees or the flowers on the pavement, like what color they are. So you're using your 5 senses, which gets us out of task mode. It really gets us into another part of our brain. And I work a lot with neuroscience. A lot of neuroscience is in the book Pause as well. And the idea is that when we activate these other areas, it just takes the burden off of the stressors we feel. Usually when we're feeling stressed, it's when we're in the task mode, meaning, we're in our to-do list, or we're doing the 10 things, the checklist we need to get our kids ready for school. Maybe they have their own checklist, right? And so those are the fun things that we can kind of think about differently when we use the power of pause with those things.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's incredible just how just the one breath even just changes your physiology a little bit
Yeah,
there.
it
It just
really
feels different.
activates your rest and digest mode, which is our relaxation, calming, soothing, like nervous system, really. And then it's a signal to your body physiologically, like, oh, I don't have to shoot cortisol up into my brain as fast or strongly as I thought I did. And I get to wind down a little bit. So there's many benefits. There's so many benefits to pausing. And again, it's about, those little micro moments or things that can work for you so that you can throughout your day feel good and then get back in it and have more energy, feel more connected, be more productive. Like that's all the name of the game is. But if we don't take time to care for ourselves, and this is huge for parents, right? Like how many times we put ourselves last because there's the family or a spouse or the dog or the kids, like all of these things. But the key is we have to take care of ourselves first, and then we can take care of others, because it doesn't work the other way around long term. It really just doesn't.
Right. And when our cup's not full, we cannot give from it.
That's so true. And we all kind of know that, but like the statistics right now in our world are so not that case, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I just read, we all know that November 2021 had the highest rate of departure for the corporate world in America. Like 42 million people left their job, 4.2 million people left their jobs voluntarily.
Wow.
And our healthcare costs are through the roof. $190 US billion annually are spent on healthcare costs attributed to burnout and overwhelm. Things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stress and anxiety medications. I mean, the list goes on and on. And it's a bummer to talk about, but we have to, I think, because that's what is ahead of us if we don't all take action to change how we are, because it can't keep going like this.
I saw a TikTok video the other day about this.
I'm not on TikTok yet.
Yeah, I just look at the videos. I don't make them, but I was on this channel. This guy was saying he's like high achieving lawyer, went to this amazing law school, But his mental health was so much suffering, and it wasn't his parents like driving him to do all these things growing up. It was just a byproduct of our environment, of that kind of strive and overachieve and always doing kind of thing. And so he was really, it was actually a shout out to parents of like, be very aware of your children's mental health right now because of the environment that we're creating. And so I can see how valuable this is to start implementing, and just even doing the pausing with our kids, so early, starting this practice early on in their life so that they can handle things a lot better as they grow
Oh,
up.
so true. Yeah. And just think about what that means, because you are the example, right? Each of
Mm.
us as parents and leaders in our lives and our families are the examples. They're looking to us for what and how to be. And we are in a different system now, like our world of internet and all of the 24/7 that's on. It's not what most of us as parents grew up with, because we're another generation. I'm personally Gen X. So there was nothing like this. So, but I was a, striver, overachiever, all of those things. So we really need to be aware. And that's this whole point of pause is, being online, literally off of autopilot,
Yeah.
kind of up on there, but just being present to what and how you are, so that that being can really be present. And that's all our kids want. They just want to be with us. That's you practicing every time you're engaging, right? And just giving them some eye contact, smiling, playing. Those are the things that get us into that pause mode, and they're beautiful.
Yeah. And it's what your kids need above anything else, is that connection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, and I think most of us probably know this, but one of the best ways to learn is through play. That's how kids learn and accelerate, and the best ways. And that's how we do too as adults. But if we don't use that engagement to literally interact, then we don't go there. And it's not in our system of schooling is all different based on the 1950s and educational theory and all of that stuff. But we have to set the new paradigm. It's up to us as parents, as the leaders in our families and our lives, to create more being, I think. And it all starts with us, each of us.
More being and less doing sounds amazing, to take that pause. And it was interesting. We had another expert on a few episodes ago, and he was saying, it was Kim John Payne, and he was saying, like, if you're trying to escape somewhere or move somewhere different to have a slower paced life, he's like, it's never going to happen, because it's not the external environment, it's the internal environment.
Nothing to do where you live or anything like that. It's all internal, based on how we grew up with our families. Like we all know, like it's the family systems and the dynamic of the system of our Western culture too, by the way. And the key here, like I really want to stress it, you said it really well, like, more being, I say, in service to your doing, because it's not about slowing down. In fact, you can have a high velocity life, but if you pause, it's going to be even better. And so that's the key. It's like, what could I do to continue to sustain myself? So I am just rocking it as a parent, as a professional, as a mom, as a sister or wife or husband, like all of those things. And we all know that, right? Like when we have these moments where you're like, wow, that was awesome. Like I want to do more gardening, or like whatever it is, that allows us, like those moments of joy and really feeding our hearts and soul, they allow us to be more aligned. That's the whole point of pausing, I think, is to just kind of realign again, and to be in a place that feels really good for us. So we feel good doing anything, whether it's the stuff that we don't even want to do, right? Like taxes or whatever. Like I'm doing mine now, so.
On my mind too. Yeah. That's awesome. So for parents, for our parents out there, we're thinking, this sounds great. Like, is this something we should help our kids, pause and take a belly breath like a couple times a day, or like in the morning or at night, or what's the cadence?
Yeah. So I would recommend once a day to start, right? There's a whole concept I call the law of little things. And this is such a great rule, where the big change doesn't happen with big steps. It happens with little things, little incremental baby steps. So what is one thing you could do starting maybe before bedtime tonight that would help you pause and just do it? Like, what's that one thing? And it might be in service to something you're just wanting to do more of. Like it might be, hey, I do want to journal. I'm going to start that. I'm going to maybe I'll go get Rachel's pause the journal, or I'll just take a notebook and
Yes.
write in it for 2 minutes. Or maybe I'll try a belly breath pause, and then my recommendation is to try it first yourself, and then bring in your kids after you feel like you have a good understanding of how it feels for you. Then that way we can kind of lead and know what we can expect, right? Because then you can answer questions and all those things. Yeah. But I would recommend once a day is great. And then you can work up to like 3 times a day. And then I'll give it a hot tip here from Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence. He says, and Richard Boyzatis, who's also a thought leader in all kinds of behavioral sciences, and leadership. The idea is that if we do pause every 45 to 90 minutes in our workday or in our regular to-do things, we're optimizing everything. We actually do our tasks better when we do that. And it doesn't need to be a long break. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes or 15 minutes, but like just giving yourself some moments, but every 60 to 90 minutes doing that. And that might seem like a lot, right? Like, whoa, like I don't take a break for 4 hours if I'm on my afternoon shift or whatever that might be. But the idea is it doesn't need to be a lot of time. Like I said, like what if you just took a minute for a dance break, had a party with your kids on the dance floor, right? Like that would be fun. And so it's again about what works for you, but those are the pauses that are in service to your doing. And you can have as many as you want of those, but I would say start once a day and then work up from there. But yeah, don't bite off more than you can chew, because then we just don't do it. We get discouraged, or we say, forget it.
Start stressing about it.
Who wants to do that? That's never going to work. So just try one thing before bedtime tonight. That would be my recommendation, and try it again tomorrow.
Awesome. I love it. It makes it sound easy too, which is what we like.
It will be fun.
Yes. And Rachael, I know you have something to share with our audience. Where can we find out more information about how to work with you or how to connect with you?
Yeah. So if you would like to learn more, I have a free guidebook for all of us. It's on my website. It's called The 3 Keys to Transform Overwhelm into Thriving. So you can go to my website, rachealomeara.com/guidebook, rachealomeara.com/guidebook, or you can just go to rachealomeara.com and you'll click on the link on the first page, and it's a downloadable PDF from there. So that has a lot more information on some of these ways to I think about burnout and not get into that, and then some daily pauses in there, and some of those ones like the feelings and emotions I was talking about.
Yeah, that sounds great. So you guys make sure we'll put that in the show notes too. Make sure you go check out. And Rachael, can you get your journal there too?
Everything's on my website. Okay. And I have a podcast as well, the Pausecast. Talk about pausing, and you can go check out on my page for the journal or the book Pause. It's all there. I
love it. The Pausecast. That's amazing. I love it. All right. Well, Rachael, thank you so much for joining us today. Blissful Parents, take a pause.
Thank you.
And in return, your life will become more blissful again. So
That's right.
Yes. Right. Thanks so much, Rachael. It's been awesome. We'll hope to see you again soon. Blissful Parents, go out there. Have an amazing day. We'll see you again next week.